The easiest way to remember this, 5 facets, is to think of the word self. S-E-L-F, and add an F to the end, okay? And so, no matter what life change you go through, right, whatever traumatic event, you have to remember to take care of yourself. And this stands for social, emotional, legal, financial, and functional. Okay. Social. Now when you get divorced, there's a social toll and a social, actually, benefit, right, to getting divorced. The social toll, of course, is you aren't married anymore. That role that you're used to having as being a spouse, the circles that you're used to being in as a spouse, probably aren't going to be as supportive of you as a single person. And a lot of that's due to the fact that people have kind of a fear about others who are getting divorced. They kind of stand back like it's catchy. And it kind of is. There's data to show that people who have close friends, relatives, or coworkers who get divorced are almost twice as likely to get divorced themselves. Okay? So if married friends are kind of distancing themselves when you go through divorce, it's kind of to be expected, and it might say a whole lot about what's going on in their lives. Okay? So the reason why I say that is don't take it personally. Okay? The social benefit is that you'll have an opportunity to explore who you are in all kinds of new situations. And I don't just mean who you are when you're talking to your attorney and their staff, right? You will have opportunity to meet a lot of other people. So we move on to the emotional component. Believe it or not, your emotions will go all over the map with a divorce, or actually any major life change. And that's because your life is changing profoundly. The way you're used to experiencing life is no longer the same, right? We're all used to operating within certain parameters. And part of those parameters are your behavior as a spouse, right? If you take that away, you're kind of lost in trying to figure out what's next. The big thing about emotional is when you go through a divorce, the biggest emotion I want you to be aware of is anger. Because it so easily, when you get divorced, turns to rage. The reason for that is when you're married, you know how you kind of pick your battles, right? And the things that aren't really worth dealing with, you kind of pick up the rug and you sweep them underneath, right? And over the years, you continue to sweep. And you continue to sweep, right? And so long as things are going okay, it's like you understand this is how it is, right? I'm choosing what's important to me to deal with, right? And before you know it, the rug kind of looks more like this instead of the nice flat thing. So when the decision is made to divorce, right? You know all this stuff that you've been keeping underneath here? It can explode like a volcano and come spewing forth. That's where the source of the rage can be. Okay? So the reason why I bring this up here is when you're feeling rage, you're not being very logical. You're not able to make very good decisions. In fact, you can make some really bad ones. Okay? But if you're aware that this can be an issue, you can take steps so that it doesn't destroy you in any way. Okay? The next facet is the legal. And this is the piece that people think of most often, right? When you hear about people getting divorced, is I got to get an attorney, right? I want you to know that there are different methodologies for achieving a divorce in the state of Texas than just straight out litigation, right? You can do a mediation, you can do a collaborative, you can even do one that's called pro se, which means you do it on your own. Highly discourage you from trying to do it on your own, okay? Because even though the county courthouse may have forms, right, you don't really know what all those forms mean. So even if you decide to take those forms, bare minimum is to have your own attorney review them. Right? Don't just file them on your own. You want to make sure. The reason is because when I got divorced, my husband at the time pulled some stuff off the website, wanted me to, let's just get divorced, right? I read them. I was used to reading legal documents because of my job. Something didn't seem quite right to me. I couldn't put my finger on it, but something didn't seem quite right. I took it to an attorney, and she said, wow, yeah, you're really glad you didn't sign these because you were signing away rights for the future. Okay? So I really want you to be aware that having an attorney at least review the documentation is highly important. Okay? The next piece is financial. One of the big reasons why you need an attorney is to divide up who gets what. Right? You have assets and you have debts. You have property. Right? And that all fits in here underneath the financial. And when I say assets, I also include things like pensions, retirement accounts. When I say debts, I mean all of the notes that you owe, right? So your home mortgage, your car notes, any credit card debt, and of course, the assets are the things that you own outright. And then the final piece here is the functional. You won't hear many people talk about this, but this really is the crux of how you deal with any major change in your life. How do you actually function as a result of it? And very quickly, we'll talk about this with respect to stereotypes, okay? So the wife in a marriage typically, stereotypically, okay, has the jobs of grocery shopping, right? Making the meals and taking care of the calendar, right? Making sure everybody gets to where they need to be, right? Stereotype. So imagine now getting divorced and the wife is all of a sudden faced with things that she usually relied on the husband to handle, like getting the oil changed, taking care of the yard work, buying tires, right? How do you manage that, right? It's kind of scary. I know it was for me the first time I had to buy tires. I was calling all my guy friends. I knew, okay, how do you do this? What do you look for? Where's a good place to go? Because I'd never done it, right? On the flip side, right, for the husbands, they're used to having somebody cook their meals. They're used to having somebody go to the grocery store, right? So obviously the first choice is, I still want to go to the grocery store. Let's go out to eat all the time, right? Well, exactly, Randy, exactly. You hit this barrier. Because when you divide things up, there's not as much to go around, right? And so you got to figure out something else. Either you go on a really quick diet and you eat out, maybe once a week and you starve the rest of the time, or you live on popcorn or delivery, something, right? Or you figure out, okay, I guess I got to learn how to go to the grocery store and buy something, and maybe cook a little bit. But it's a change, right? How do you manage these changes just to make your life work? The more extreme cases, of course, are when there's been a stay-at-home parent, right? And trying to get back into the workforce and find a job, right? I work with folks on that one too. But that's a really big thing. So there's 5 different facets of divorce. And I've talked about them pretty much singly, right? But the truth is, they usually look something more like this, with each of these circles representing one of the facets. You change one, it's going to impact another. Okay? There's even places where they all overlap. And nobody can predict how your particular path is going to go, right? So being aware, knowledge is half the battle. Being aware that these are all facets that you'll need to deal with as part of a divorce or any major life change is really empowering.